Hello my friends, Asoka the Geek here, and for this video I want to talk about my reaction, my review of the new Superman movie that was just released. So I've actually seen it 3 times as of this video. I saw the Amazon screening this past Tuesday, then I went Thursday night, and then I went this morning, Friday morning. I had the day off from work, so I went and saw it. 9 a.m. IMAX screening. So I've seen it 3 times, and it's taken me 3 times to really kind of get my thoughts together on where I'm at with the movie. You know, I'm sure some of you can understand that we are so close to this material. I mean, look at where I'm sitting, right, in my shed here with my action figures, my comic books, my Superman t-shirt. Here's the cufflinks I wore to my wedding. Superman cufflinks right here, you know, just to kind of show what Superman means to me. He means a lot to a lot of people, but I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that when I first saw the movie on Tuesday night and my friends were asking me what I thought about the movie, I didn't really know what to say. I didn't know how I really felt about it. I bring so much baggage, I guess, when I go see a Superman movie, or if I go see a Star Trek movie, because I'm such a big Star Trek fan as well. Star Trek and Superman are probably the 2 biggest, you know, franchises, IP, whatever you want to call it, that's close to my heart. So I bring a lot of baggage to those experiences. So yeah, it took me a couple of viewings of this movie to really for me to really be able to articulate how I feel about it. So I'm just going to talk about that, just talk about how I feel about the movie, all the different parts about it. This is going to be a very unorganized, rambling type review. So if you're not into that, I would suggest finding another review. There's many reaction videos out, of course, to this movie. So with that being said, let's get into it. So Superman, how do I feel about... Okay, so I talked about baggage, right? So what is that baggage? Christopher Reeve, first Superman I ever loved. Those movies got me into movies in general, got me into Superman. So the Christopher Reeve movies, for me, he's like the Sean Connery of Supermans, right? Like, he's just not even on a list. He's just always going to be number 1, and everyone else is going to come second. That's the way I view Christopher Reeve. He's just means everything to me, and he's still my favorite Superman to this day. So love Christopher Reeve. Love all the movies. I mean, obviously Superman 1 and 2, but even 3 and 4, I'll rewatch those pretty often. There's things about those movies, obviously, that aren't great, but there are things that I love in each of those movies. Superman Returns, you know, for all its flaws, I still really enjoy that movie as well. I think it was really trying to do a lot. It came up short in a lot of ways, but still, I love Brandon Routh. I thought he did a great job as Superman, and you know, obviously the plane sequence everyone talks about. I love just Clark Kent. You know, I enjoyed that. Man of Steel. I love Man of Steel. For me, Man of Steel almost sits side by side with Christopher Reeve's original Superman movie, because at that point in the timeline when Man of Steel came out, that was exactly the Superman movie that I was wanting to see. Something really different from the Christopher Reeve movies, something that did its own score, original score, had its own tone, went away from the trunks, really was something that I was looking for, and it delivered that. And I love Henry Cavill, Zack Snyder, the epicness of those movies, the cinematography, the color palette. I'm a fan of it. I know some people don't obviously feel the same way as I do, but I love those movies. Batman vs. Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League. I love that whole trilogy with Henry Cavill, and I wish he had gotten to do a bit more with the character. You know, I'm grateful that we got 3 movies with him in it, but of course he wasn't treated very well near the end there, so that was always disappointing. But I'm still grateful for what we got with Henry, and I love those movies. So that's just kind of where I'm at. So obviously I like Superman quite a bit in all its forms. Lois and Clark, Superman and Lois, Smallville, the Superboy TV shows, the Superman animated series. I like all of it. There's really not one bad Superman show, in my opinion, because I'm very open to different interpretations of the character, you know, because all of it is valid and all of it is invalid, in my opinion. Because if you want to talk about the source material, you have to go back to Action Comics #1, those first few issues, and that Superman is nowhere near anything that's really been represented in any sort of media, really, because, you know, that was so early that even evolved very quickly from what was originally in the source material. So that you can really stretch out the concept of Superman and take it to so many directions, and it's still Superman, right? As long as you have a few fundamentals in there. But yeah, so I'm very open in different interpretations, and I've liked all of them to varying degrees. So that's kind of my baggage coming in to this movie. So let's talk about the movie itself, the new Superman movie. Let's kind of go down through a couple of things. First of all, let's talk about Superman himself, David Cornsweet. I love him. I thought he was fantastic. He brought charm. He brought grace. He was funny. He was approachable. He seems like a kind person, but he still had strength to him. He still had anger and passion, you know. And I'm gonna get into spoilers. So from this point on, be warned. There are going to be spoilers for the movie. So I want to make that clear from this point going forward. I'm going to talk about spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, or you don't want to be spoiled, do not watch any further. And I'll make sure to put spoilers in the title of this video. But anyways, David Cornsweet, again, like, he was just so good in the role. When he confronts Lex Luthor after Lex kidnaps Krypto, and just how mad he is, and just, you know, wants to rip Luthor apart, I just love that scene. But then he's also very kind, and he's romantic with Lois. I brought their romance. I love their chemistry. That was awesome. And I think for me, he's the first Superman who really feels like he was raised as a human, right? Like, Tom Welling, I think, to a certain degree as well. He seemed like a normal kid, kind of, in Smallville. But, you know, you watch Henry, you watch Christopher Reeve, there's always something of an outsider quality to them, which makes sense. He's an alien being raised as a human. But I think for me, the new Superman, David's portrayal was very much like, this is someone who grew up in Kansas. The way he talked, the way he smiled a lot, the way he was just like a normal human man. Like, he's like almost someone you would know. That's what I like about him. He was more like a godlike character and more of a relatable human. I don't even care about the relating part. That's always something that bothers me. I don't need to relate to Superman. I just need to care about Superman and all that. I need to relate to him. But he was just like a normal person. I love his portrayal. It had so much warmth and charm. And full credit to the screenplay for that, because, you know, I'm going to make comparisons to Man of Steel and other movies, because it's hard not to, given that's all floating around up here. But, you know, with Man of Steel and Henry's portrayal, very stoic, you know, but that's the way he was written. That's the way that movie was. And he was great for that. And I love that movie. And I love how stoic he was, and the way he approached Clark Kent and Superman. I mean, he wasn't Clark Kent much in Man of Steel, but even in BVS, the way he played it was, yeah, he was stoic. He was a little bit more serious, a little more weight on his shoulders, a little bit more burdened by his powers, I felt. And that's the way Henry was written. Now, if Henry got a chance to do this material, who knows how he would have done with it. He can be very charming as well. But anyways, back to David. David did a great job playing this version of Superman, a very charming human Superman. So I love that. The physicality, I mean, the dude's a tank, man. He's a tall, good-looking guy, and I think he really looks the part as far as Superman goes. The suit, didn't care for the suit when it was first revealed. Now I love the suit. Can't imagine him wearing anything else in these films. I love that they use the underwear, the underpants, I should say, because that's another thing that I really love about this movie, is how much it leaned into everything that I don't want to use the word ashamed, but a little bit, right? Superman is a little bit of an embarrassing character in some ways, right? He wears the underpants, colorful costume, happy-go-lucky character, and that was kind of Man of Steel's reaction to that, right? Kind of undoing all of that, or kind of getting away from that. But those aspects of Superman I just love how James Gunn celebrated those goofier, corny aspects of him, because that's one of the reasons I love the character. You know, when I read All-Star Superman or the comic books, and then when he's portrayed like that, even Christopher Reeve, he was a sweet, charming guy in those movies, and bright, colorful costume, and you know, it did kind of get to the point in our society where, you know, that was frowned upon, and we felt a little, you know, again, ashamed of it. And that's why they, you know, because the underpants conversation you know, it made sense in the 1938 when Superman was first created, representative of a wrestler or whatever it was, but now in modern times doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I just love that they chose to celebrate that, and that's what this movie felt like overall, was a very much a celebration of Superman, of everything about him, his kindness, how he just wants to help everybody, and he's a little naive about that. And Lois Lane points that out in their conversations, how he thinks everyone is beautiful. And that was such a beautiful line. That scene's probably my favorite scene in the movie, when Lois and Clark are, you know, in his apartment, and you're seeing that amazing battle happening in the background, which was great. And, you know, they're talking about how he thinks he's punk rock, and that whole conversation, it was just beautiful. Their chemistry was great, and you kind of see her falling more in love with him during that conversation, right? Like, what he talks about going to save crypto, and the way she looks at him like, man, you crazy guy, you're such a good person that you're about to go turn yourself in to the government to go help your dog. I just thought that was just so sweet, and you just see her falling more in love with him, and it's just such a beautiful moment, you know? Yeah, I just love that so much. So again, just David as Superman, the suit, everything worked really well from that perspective. Talking about Lois, love Lois Lane. I loved Rachel's take on Lois and her chemistry with Superman. You know, she played a really great reporter type role. She was supportive of Superman, but still challenged him, like in that interview scene. And I think that's, you know, she was really great. I really liked her as Lois Lane. The rest of the cast, I mean, Lex Luthor, man, Nicholas Hoult just did a fantastic job as Lex Luthor. I feel like we've gotten very fortunate in our Lex Luthors over the years, from Gene Hackman to Michael Rosenbaum to even was it John Shea, Michael Shea from Lois and Clark. I loved him quite a bit as well. We've got some really great Lex Luthors, and he's definitely up there. I would say I would go Hackman, Rosenbaum, and now Nicholas Hoult. But Nicholas Hoult and Rosenbaum might be neck and neck, because I love Michael Rosenbaum's take on Lex Luthor, and he had a lot more time to live with that character and add a lot of dimension to it. But Nicholas Hoult is just an evil genius, wants to kill Superman, and I just loved him. He was just a fantastic Lex Luthor, fantastic villain. You know, I just really loved that whole relationship, and wow, what a great actor. The rest of the cast, Jimmy Olsen was great. I'm glad we got to see more Jimmy Olsen finally back in a Superman movie. He was hilarious. He's a ladies' man, which is great, and just his whole relationship with I think it's with Eve was awesome. Just the whole Jimmy, he was great. Of course, Mr. Terrific, like everyone else, he stole the show. Every scene he was in, just the way he played that character with gravitas, with seriousness, but was still a lighter side to him, and he's just a professional. He's doing his thing and doing it well. He made me a Mr. Terrific fan. I've always liked the character just because I love all the DC characters, obviously, but I think he made me a Mr. Terrific fan, and as he did hopefully for a lot of other people. So great job to Mr. Terrific. Guy Gardner was great. I'm glad he wasn't a complete asshole, because, you know, guys often portrayed like that in the comics. Not really anymore, though. Guy gets a bad rap. He's not that much of an a-hole. He likes to pretend to be an a-hole, but he's a Green Lantern. He cares about people. He just comes off a little... Sorry, I shook the camera there. A little brash, but he's awesome. Hawkgirl was great as well. The only thing I bumped up against with Hawkgirl is the scream. I don't remember her having a scream like that in the comics at all. Like, that was very more of a Black Canary type screen, so I thought that was a little odd. But I like the actress who played Hawkgirl. You know, I liked her in the battle scenes and the scenes at the Hall of Justice. That was great. And yeah, a great supporting cast all around. Metamorpho, look, there's so many great characters. I keep forgetting who was in there. He was awesome. Visually, just the way, you know, his powers were displayed in the movie, that was amazing. Just the special effects there were great. And then Crypto. Oh my gosh, Crypto was so good. You knew he was going to be a big part of the movie from the trailers, but that scene at the end, again, spoilers if you're still watching, when he mauls Lex Luthor, that was just So funny, so awesome. I love that scene so much. So yeah, no complaints with any of the characters. What else? What else? The plot, the story. It was fine. I mean, it was, nothing special there, nothing, Shakespearean here. Pretty simple plot with Lex Luthor scheming and whatnot, trying to discredit Superman. I did like how they made Jor-El and Lara, I'm not going to say villains, but they made them more of a, that they didn't have the greatest intentions for Superman on Earth. They had very good intentions for him. Me being a parent, I get it. Hey, I'm going to send you their son. You're better than these people. Lord over them. Okay, I can see that from a parental perspective. But I like that they added that layer to them because, it kind of showed that Superman's true values really came from not only from within, but from his the Kents raising him. Because I felt like lately in most depictions of Superman, Jor-El and Lara were brilliant, amazing, kind scientists. The Kents were super kind people. So, he's very much set up for success from a DNA perspective as well as the nurture perspective. But I think the way they handled it here was that maybe Kryptonians do think they're superior. Obviously, in that message, it definitely felt like Jor-El and Lara felt that way. So, the Kents, I think that made them more important because they really raised him to be someone different. And that was just beautiful. And I love the Kents in this. They felt like real people. I mean, I loved all the versions of the Kents. I don't think that we've had a bad mom, Pa Kent. I like that Pa Kent was still around in this movie. And he was just very sweet and mushy about his son. I'm, again, very much about my kids, so I could totally relate to that. And I just really loved their whole portrayal there. And just showing Superman's very blue-collar roots, right? And it was just really sweet. And that whole scene with Lois in his bedroom looking at all his stuffs and what is the crab band? I forget the name of them. That whole scene, just watching her look at the poster, looking at his life and how he grew up, and again, just her getting more connected to Clark and all of that was just really nicely done. So love that. What else? The music. I liked all the songs. I liked that the movie ended with a song, very Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was just a nice departure from having an epic score. High quality problem because John Williams, Hans Zimmer, their scores were amazing. I love the Man of Steel score and the BVS score. They're great scores, and I would have preferred they didn't even use the John Williams score at all in this. I don't feel John Williams score translates well to modern Superman movies. Even in Josh Whedon's Justice League, when he tried to sprinkle in the Williams score, it didn't work for me. You need the Man of Steel score for that. I feel like every Superman should have their own specific score. For some reason, I don't feel that way about the James Bond score, but the James Bond theme music has been playing with James Bond for the entire, 20 or so movies, and it somehow still fits that character. But I don't know, the John Williams score, it was fine the way they used it, but I just always feel like it is, you try to remix it, you try to do something different with it, and I don't know, it never really connects with me when they try to rearrange it and modernize it. I think they should have just gone with the totally original score, but with the musical choices that they made. Because I love the music. The song at the end that I've already downloaded and been listening to since the movie is just fantastic. And as he's watching his parents now, his Smallville parents, and they were playing that music, of course, got emotional over that. And that's I think the highlight of this movie, right? Being so emotionally connected to these characters and really caring about Superman and his friends. It was just awesome. The world building, I mean, it was great. This is his DC universe here. We have a Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific. There's that JSA mural in the Hall of Justice. And, of course, Supergirl showing up at the end. And just those brief moments of Supergirl just got me so excited for the Supergirl movie that's coming out next summer. She was great. So just loved seeing that. A couple of things that I would say, I don't want to say I didn't like, but again, this has to do with the baggage that I bring to this, right? So, Man of Steel, BVS, Zack Snyder's Justice League, they're so epic. The way they're shot, so many epic scenes, memorable scenes. Like, I can think of so many different shots from Man of Steel that are still in my mind. You know, if it's not like when he first gets his costume, he steps outside that fortress and flies for the first time. Just that whole scene, right? When he escapes the General Zod's ship, when he's talking to Jor-El and he floats outside. BVS after the fight with Doomsday. There's so many epic shots. I didn't feel like we got as many epic shots in this movie. And I know it's a totally different movie, totally different style. I think the most epic shot was after, near the end of the movie, when the buildings are collapsing, Superman saves the lady in the car, and the building crashes around him, and there's that big smoke plume that he's rising above. That was the most epic shot of the movie. There was also a shot later after he's fought Ultraman. Oh, I haven't even talked about Ultraman yet. We'll talk about Ultraman in a minute. That was pretty epic. But I'm just so used to, again, this is baggage, right? This is what I'm bringing to it. I'm just so used to seeing these epic Zack Snyder. Listen, for what every criticisms you have of Zack Snyder, the dude can shoot a movie, man. His cinematography, his visualization of a scene, just amazing, right? So I think I've seen James Gunn do this in other movies, but not as much as in this one. But again, I think that just goes to that this movie was less about those epic shots and these big set pieces, which of course there were a lot of big epic set pieces, but it was more about the characters and the drama between them and us really caring about Superman as a person. That's kind of where my head's going to as why this movie is so awesome, but yeah, so different from what we've just come from the Zack Snyder movies. But yeah, I guess that's the only thing I would say that I guess it's weird. We've had all these since Superman Returns, through Man of Steel, BVS, Zack Snyder Justice League. We've had a lot of Alex Ross influence, right? Like straight up shots from Alex Ross translated into a movie, and Alex Ross just paints the most majestic, awe-inspiring, mythical things. And then the most recent round of filmmakers have tried to kind of imitate that. So I think James Gunn didn't. So that's kind of what I'm bumping up against there. What I do like is they kind of really got away from... I know this whole era is supposed to be the gods and monsters era of the DCU, but Superman was so not godlike, right? Usually in the Superman movie, you have, especially in Superman Returns and in Man of Steel, there are a few shots that are intentionally meant to evoke Jesus, right? Because Superman's like our savior. There's a few shots of him with his arms spread out, like on the cross and things like that. And very intentionally, I remember Bryan Singer talked about this in Superman Returns, that they were going for that, to be very on the nose in a few of those shots. And I'm really glad James Gunn didn't do that in this movie. Not that I don't have any issue with portraying Superman like that, but it was just nice to see something different. Showing a side of Superman where he's much more of a human who can do amazing things and less godlike, if that makes any sense. But so I thought those were interesting choices. And then Ultraman. I didn't talk about Ultraman. Let's talk about Ultraman for a sec. This is a weird character for me. So he's like a plot device. You need him to break into the fortress. You need some muscle for Lex. They call him Ultraman, which obviously Ultraman in the comics is from Earth 2 or another Earth, and he's a corrupted version of Superman. I forget the exact backstory. That's usually what Ultraman is. But then, again, spoilers, if you haven't watched the movie yet, you find out that he's a clone of Superman. And when they unmask him, he looks just like David, just with like brown, grown out hair. I don't know why they didn't just make him full-on Bizarro and just really... give him more of a Bizarro look. I think that would have looked more interesting than what we got, which was just David in a black suit. They should have just gone full Bizarro at that point and given him a Bizarro type suit. I think that would have been a little bit more visually interesting. But yeah, so there's that. Then the Engineer, I like the Engineer quite a bit. Again, she served a lot of purposes as far as being able to hack the fortress, fight Superman. I'm glad, these are different villains we haven't seen before, so that was great to see that. But yeah, so that was the only thing with Ultraman I didn't really care for, but there you go. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to talk about. I've been living with this movie for so long. I show my daughters the trailer every day, so now I can slow that down a little bit and eventually just get the movie on home video to watch. But yeah, I definitely really enjoyed it. Dare I say I loved it. It's going to take me a while to really kind of settle on where I'm at with this, and it's going to be very hard to rank this to these other movies. You know, I've been living with the Snyder movies for so long, with the Christopher Reeve movies, and again, you guys know who are watching this video. It's not like we watch this stuff all the time. We watch Man of Steel probably on a yearly basis if you're into that, or whatever it is that you're into. So this is definitely gonna be interesting to see where this fits, a year from now, the way I look back on this. But I'm very excited for the future. I love this version of Superman. Can't wait to see him, hopefully in another movie sooner rather than later. I'm really happy that the public is embracing this so far. It's Friday night right now. It looks like it's gonna do at least 120 million opening weekend, which is great. The audience reaction has been good. Been really good, actually. The critic reviews has been good. Younger people, I took my daughter to see this. She's 6. It's nice that we can take our kids to see this movie. Hopefully this resonates with the younger generation. Because I'm an old guy. I'm 45. I'm more concerned with Superman lasting beyond my time, and hopefully, long after. But I did also pick up this Superman popcorn bucket, which will now become a trash can in my shed here. That's why I justified buying it. It's got a nice lid there. Still smells like stale popcorn, but I have to wash that out again. But it's going to become my trash can in my office here. But obviously, let me know what you guys think. Again, this is all just my opinion, my friends. There's no right or wrong answers with opinions. I'm not trying to say you should love or hate this movie in any way. These are just my thoughts on it. Everyone has valid opinions. But I would love to know what you guys think and what you guys bumped up against or what you didn't bump up against and whatnot. So thanks for watching. It was fun recording this, getting all my thoughts and feelings out about this movie and sharing it with the few people who might end up watching this. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking time to watch this whole thing if you did. And looking forward to seeing your comments below. Thank you.